Welcome to Joy News Prime. Our headlines this hour. As calls grow for Akufo-Addo administration to fix the economy, Institute of Economic Affairs charges government to restructure ministries and cut down the number of ministers from 86 to 56, rejecting an IMF bailout.
The measures, it added, should also include restructuring ministries and reducing the number from 30 to 20, reducing the number of ministers from 86 to 56, slashing executive pay by 20%, and enforcing the announced 20% reduction of MDA's budget.
And for the last 3 months, national service personnel who work on subvented agencies have not received their allowances. We'll have some of them in studio. And NDC MPs holds parliamentary hearings for the 5th time in 1 week. We have a wrap on quorum for parliamentary business.
Just took a decision on motion 33, which he had no objection. Then immediately after, he has a problem with the next motion. Mr. Speaker, I find it very rich.
And at 8 p.m., I will hand it over to Charles and Gary for Prime Business and Prime Sports. Charles, what's coming up in business?
Well, in business, the Association of Ghana Industries is sounding a warning about the city speculation, saying that it is crushing the purchasing power of local industries.
Speculative nature should be tackled or confronted strategically. We are fairly aware that a number of our colleagues who trade in the open space, in the foreign currency. Some are also in link with some banks that wish to cash in on the season of crisis.
And in sports?
And in sport, what's the latest in the build-up to Ghana versus Nigeria? We have more coming up.
I am reliably informed that the work given to them is done, except that, Mr. Speaker, there is a Ghana-Nigeria match, a very crucial match.
And we are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. I am Blessed Sugan. Stay for details. Well, and tonight, the Institute of Economic Affairs is asking government to restructure ministries and reduce the number of ministries from 86 to 56 in a 4-point proposal on how government can restore the economy. Director of Research at IEA, Dr. John Kwachi, said it is important that government and the Bank of Ghana collectively take these measures to restore investor confidence and gain needed policy credibility. He says there wouldn't be a need for an IMF bailout if government adopts the proposed measures. Here's a news desk report.
Its 4-point proposal on fixing the economy, the IEA wants the tax exemptions bill to be passed to reduce the scope and scale of exemption, in addition to enforcing tax compliance, especially by professionals, and introduction of segregated corporate tax, abolishing the current import benchmark discount of 30% for general goods and 10% for vehicles, amongst others. Again, it warns government to take urgent measures to reduce expenditure, whose level and composition remain problematic. The measures, it added, should also include restructuring ministries and reducing the number from 30 to 20, reducing the number of ministers from 86 to 56, slashing executive pay by 20%, and enforcing the announced 20% reduction of MDA's budget. The IEA also wants government to reduce the 2022 fiscal deficit from 7.4% to 6.0 to boost the credibility of the budget and reduce the concerns regarding both fiscal and debt sustainability. The statement noted that it is important that the government and Bank of Ghana collectively take these measures to restore investor confidence and gain needed policy credibility. Failure to act accordingly will only worsen the economic crisis, with a widening of spreads on Ghana's bonds, decreasing access to international bond markets, growing disinvestment from local financial markets, and growing pressure on the cedi.
Well, here are some of the highlights of the proposals contained in the IEA proposal proposal, and you have that right here on Joy News Prime for you. In fact, IEA on fixing the economy. Here it is in its 4-point proposal on fixing the economy. The IEA wants, first of all, the tax exemptions bill to be passed to reduce the scope and scale of exemptions in addition to enforcing tax compliance, especially by professionals. You know that government has been lamenting that the compliance by these professional groups has not been encouraging, and possibly that may have been informing IEA's position on the matter. They're also making another point here, talking about the introduction of segregated corporate tax, ranging from the current level of 25% for indigenous companies to 35% for foreign companies, and the abolishment of the current import benchmark discount of 30% for general goods and 10% for vehicles, amongst others. These are some of the demands they are making, but that's not all. In fact, there's more for you here on Joy News Prime. Another point they're also making is that government needs to take urgent measures to reduce expenditure whose level and composition remain problematic. Now, government is definitely needed to restructure ministries and reduce the number from 30 to 20, and also to reduce the number of ministers from 86 to 56. And we know that that's key on the agenda for IEA. The IEA is also calling for a slash in the executive pay by some 20% as well. So it's part of their demands, and they are also asking that we enforce the announced 20% reduction of MDA's budget. And you know that is in response to a number of demands on government to try and check its expenditure. The Finance Ministry has taken that step, announcing the policy measure, but government is yet to effect that cut in terms of government expenditure. So IEA believes that one of the ways of dealing with this is to enforce that policy measure. They are also talking about the need for government to reduce the 2022 fiscal deficit from 7.4 to 6.0 to boost the credibility of the budget, and then reduce concerns regarding both fiscal and debt sustainability. So it's also on the agenda of the IEA. It's quite a bulky document, and I'm sure that most of you are wondering what's more is contained in that. You also have the concluding part, which we have here for you on Joy News Prime. Government and Bank of Ghana should collectively take these measures to restore investor confidence and gain needed policy credibility. You know that that's very critical for government if indeed it wants to go into the international market for some funding as well. So failure to act accordingly will only worsen the economic crisis, and that's the warning from the IEA tonight, with the widening of spreads on Ghana's bonds, decreasing access to international bond markets, growing disinvestments from local financial markets, and growing pressure on the cedi. So if all these measures are not taken, in the estimation of the IEA, the belief is that government will be heading into austerity measures, and that's what they want to avert. So slash the number of ministers, try as much as possible to gain some credibility by working closely with the BOJ. These are the demands contained in the policy document of the IEA. We'll bring you some updates later, but for now, let's take you to Parliament, because 9 days ago, the Supreme Court settled a contentious matter. A deputy speaker, as we know it, can vote while presiding and be counted as part of the quorum required for decision-making. This has since turned into a major impediment for government business. NDC MPs have successfully blocked government's business on 5 separate occasions, including the approval of a 20 million loan facility. There's actually more in the following report.
The House was considering an amendment to Ghana's criminal and other offences bill when the issue of quorum came up.
For me, it is very rich for him to suddenly, after considering motion 33, because we just took a decision on motion 33, which he had no objection. That immediately after, he has a problem with the next motion. Mr. Speaker, I find it very rich.
Drawing the House attention that I'm just walking in, that when 33 was taken, we equally didn't have the number. You said that, because you just said that you just took this. And Mr. Speaker, if that is the case, unless it can be proven that after this one member stepped out, that one has to be stood down. That one, we didn't have the number to take that one too.
So we are reversing.
So, Mr. Speaker, I just want to draw your attention that both 33 and what we intend to do now do not have the numbers to take that decision. Therefore, that decision that was purported to have been taken on 33 should be rescinded because the numbers were not there. Now that you are raising it, unless you can prove their members stepped out, that means it was equally taken wrongly, and therefore we need to rescind that decision.
Motion for adjournment has been moved and seconded. I'm directing that only members of parliament who are here now are the ones whose name should appear in the vote of proceedings for today, unless there's evidence that somebody has been in and gone out. I would not accept a situation where we come on Tuesday and we have a list of 200 people present when we never had the number to take a decision. So please ensure that members who have been in only. Committee meeting is not plenary sitting. So whether the person wrote his name or not, if he's not in the chamber, please make sure he or her is marked absent.
Majority Chief Whip Frank Anodompreh tells Joy News MPP MPs must show up for work to support parliamentary business.
And then, surprises are sprung on the floor, sometimes very worrying. But going forward, obviously, it's a concern that we have to deal with. If government business has to be prosecuted smoothly, then we have to find a way of dealing with that, coupled with the fact that we also need to get our numbers in.
Still in Parliament, Minority Spokesperson on Energy John Jinapo is demanding the dissolution of government's economic management team, insisting it has failed to cushion Ghanaians in the wake of rising fuel prices.
He is nowhere to be found. This is the time he has to demonstrate leadership. This is the time government must show that it cares for the people. All we hear government doing is whining and whining and whining. We believe that something must be done. That is why the minority and the Mines and Energy Committee in particular is calling on the Akufo-Addo administration to sit up and take pragmatic steps towards ensuring that they cushion the ordinary Ghanaian failure. We call on President Akufo-Addo to dissolve the economic management team because they have not lived up to expectation. Indeed, if I were the vice president, what I will be doing is to tender in my resignation as head of the economic management team.
Deputy Majority Leader Alexander Fenyomakin meanwhile says the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta will address the House next week on challenges facing the economy.
The Minister of Health has 10 questions. He has to come and tell us the progress made so far, the interventions by government. All these members are expectant. And then, of course, Mr. Speaker, the Finance Minister has 12 questions. We know the challenging times we find ourselves, but we believe that he would make it and explain government financial policy.
Now, Majority Chief Whip Frank Anodompreh says MP for Domi-Kwabena-Adwoa-Safo is the cause of the current woes of the majority in Parliament. The majority have failed on 3 separate occasions to push through government's business in Parliament because they simply did not have the numbers. Speaking to Joy News, Frank Anodompreh said Adwoa-Safo must bow her head in shame for sabotaging government and holding it to ransom.
Of a self-inflicted wound by a member of our side, which we think is most unfortunate.
And in this case, you're referring to Adwoa-Safo?
Yes, I cannot be diplomatic about it. If somebody decides to sabotage, if a person decides to sabotage government and the person care less the effects of what his or her action, it's difficult to control such a person.
We're told blatantly, obviously, about her demands. Have they not been met?
Well, I cannot confirm her demands. I've also heard it in passing. So I'm unable to tell if it's been met or not. I have heard it in passing. Officially, there's no any official communication to me in leadership. Maybe the executive will have to. Don't forget, she's also a minister. Okay. Now, I mean, it's even difficult as a whip to even reach her.
You've called her?
Yes, I'm telling you, that's a fact.
So since it started, she's not picked your call?
Well, a couple of times we've spoken, but now, as I speak with you, it's difficult.
I mean, to think that she was in the leadership herself, just, last 2 years before she will understand your job and at least grant the same respect that, all of you accorded her when she was a deputy majority leader. You're saying you're not getting that?
You see, I don't want it to look like I'm zeroing on her alone, especially in the face of, there's a bigger picture, and that is to get our members and get our government business done. It's just unfortunate. I entered parliament with her. She was fortunate. She was made a minister. A whole ministry was created for her, and then she was also made a deputy leader. What's she talking about? She has no basis for Soreva to behave the way she's behaving. Okay? I have been be very tolerant and be very diplomatic about these whole happenings relative adjustable. But the way it's going, she's blackmailing the entire system, and it is most unfair. It is most unfair. Her behavior is most unfair. And I don't know what else she wants. I don't know what else she wants. You have been made a minister. What again? Are you the only MPP member in this party? Are you the only person who has credibility and competence to serve? Is she the only person? She must bow her head down in shame. I mean, she's holding everybody to ransom, and it is totally unacceptable.
Now, for the last 3 months, national service personnel who work in subvented agencies have not received their allowance. This has led to calls for a demonstration to press home the demand among national service persons who say government has been insensitive to their plights. The 559 Ghana cedis allowance delays seem to be an annual fixture for national service personnel who must find other means of sustenance. The national service scheme has not responded to the calls to explain the cause for the delays in the payment of allowances. But tonight, we have two national service personnel who will talk to us about their plights here in studio and how they're surviving. I've been joined now by Julius Anthony Kwame and also Abdul Salam Mohammed. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on Joy News Prime. Specifically, let's deal with issues relating to how you're faring now. And let me start off with you, Julius. How has life been for you as service personnel?
It's tough. It's very tough having to do national service at a cost to yourself. You are paying your own transportation in and out, which the average is about 11 cedis a day if you are using public transport every day. And then you feed yourself. If you spend, let's say, 15 cedis twice, that's 30 cedis. That's 41 cedis in a day. Right. And then you are being given an allowance of 559. 559.
If we do the calculation,
if you do the calculation, you are in a debt of 671. That's living very moderate.
Going by the average 40.
Yes, going by the average, you are in a debt of that. If we measure on 30 days. And still, for 3 months, this has not been paid. What magic are students supposed to, national service personnel supposed to perform? Are we magicians? And we are saying all this without consideration of the fact that when you leave school and you are posted to a place where you've not lived at before, you are supposed to rent and all these things. These rent components and all these things are not even in the conversation. They are not in perspective. And students, the national service personnel are supposed to serve the nation, go to work almost every day. It's a terrible thing to have angry youth in a country like this where nothing is working. And look at the rates at which transportation cost has been increasing. It was 3 cedis 80 pesos moving from Legon campus to Ridge when I'm going for work. Now it is 5 cedis 50 pesos just within less than 3 weeks. And you are supposed to deal with this kind of situation and be patriotic to this country. How?
But Abdul, let me find out from you. Have your managers told you why you haven't been paid as of now?
Well, the information out there is that there is no money. Yes, but they haven't, spoken officially as in why there are delays in the payment. But people are of the view that, and some have also commented that there's no money in the system. But we are waiting for the employer, so that is government, to perhaps, put some light into it. That is basically what.
Have you made any attempts trying to hear from leadership or managers of the national service scheme to at least explain to you why the delay and how long it will take to clear the arrears?
Well, we have. Some of us have. Some of them are even our friends. Those who are heading the NASPA, organization. We've spoken to some of them, and quite a number of them have also explained that. They are also waiting for the secretariat to give them, information. So everybody is waiting because we don't want to speak, and it is like, so we are also waiting on them to perhaps throw more light. But we have spoken to a lot of them.
Julius was just telling us about how life is difficult for many of you who are service personnel now. But are you receiving reports that perhaps some of you are stopping, considering stopping, or have either stopped working due to the economic pressure?
You see, there are two things here. Right. A chunk of us are working at the government sector, where some receive their allowances through the e-switch and all that. Some are also working in the private sector, and majority of them are not part of the government, payroll. So for some of them who receive their monies, even prior before the month ends, some of them are not complaining. And most of them even have...
Okay, so that's all. So we need to draw the distinction.
The distinction here.
Those in the private sector.
And those in the government sector. Yeah. So
right.
when you talk about people in the private sector, most of them are not even complaining because they have their money, But for those who are in the government sector, those who receive their monies through the e-switch and all that, they are complaining. And we see, it is true that life is, hard and cost of living is high and people are struggling to survive. I am a national service personnel and I couldn't even afford rent outside, so I'm living on campus.
Right.
And living on campus, do I pay? Okay.
You still have to pay.
You still have to pay.
It doesn't
yes. And majority of us consider the fact that if you rent outside, you'll be paying electricity bills, you'll be paying water bills and all that.
Right.
And even where you've rented is probably far, like you mentioned, from your workplace. So, I mean, we are feeling it. And some people have also, decided to stop, like you mentioned.
Right.
I know a couple of friends who have stopped work because they think that they have not paid me for 2 months.
Let's hear from Julius as well, because you are a student leader, so I'm sure that the concerns he's raising would obviously get to your table as well. What are your colleagues planning on doing now? How are they planning to at least make up for these hard times?
The personnel are angry, okay, and all they need is a head, a leadership, and they will be on the streets demonstrating. And some of us at this point are willing to provide that service for them. Because ourselves, we are feeling it. Right. We are feeling it. If students start massing up to demonstrate against what is going on, I would willingly lead them on demonstration on these issues. Because it is not fair for any young person to be living under the kind of frustration that we are dealing with. It is not fair to us at all.
Could it not be because of the economic situation that the country finds itself?
See, I don't trust anything that is alluded to, current stand of events in the globe and all that. Because as NUG's General Secretary, I've witnessed how within the past 1 year, not a single person has gotten loans from SLTF, for example. So it has been a deliberate, should I say, forfeiture of responsibility towards young people. Why should you go to school and you can't even access decent loans to complete your school? Then you struggle all the way to finish and you can't even get allowance to subvent your transportation costs. It's a terrible thing to be dealing with. So there's no excuse we are going to take, whether global economic issues, whatever it is, we are not going to take it because we are already used to a situation where government ignores our plight. We are used to that situation.
And I'm sure that you've had enough of this. That's why you are all coming out to make your concerns known.
If students start massing up today, as I indicated, I'll be at the head of those.
I was just about picking up your thoughts on it as to what you would both be doing next to power pressure. What next will you be doing?
I'm going to probably stop going to work. I'm going to stop because I can't continue.
Is that a sentiment of your colleagues all across?
A lot of them. A lot of students are fed. You go to Twitter and see. Just go to Twitter, type NSS, and see what is going on. Students are fed up. They are tired. And if I hate to be stressing on this almost every day, but if you calculate the president's private jet expenses alone over the years, it would have paid these allowance if the president was considerate, if he had started using, what do you call it, commercial flight like he did to Dubai. It's not far-fetched. If you are in a republic where the president of this republic, with a population which is predominantly youthful, your ultimate responsibility, number one, is to those people. So if a lot of their needs are not catered for, and you are living in a very profligate style, an Arabian king style of living, why shouldn't we call these things into question? Why shouldn't we? It's not far-fetched for us to call these issues into question.
Abdullah, are you also considering same, at least
well,
stopping
you see, earlier
or waiting for the amounts to be paid and then you get back to work?
The point is that we await an official communication from the leadership. So right now it's like people are quiet.
NASPA.
Yes, not
NASPA.
Not NASPA, necessarily, but those NASPA, serve, they are superiors. So if the secretary comes out with a communique saying that this is the reasons why, or this is the reason why your allowances have been delayed, then we can take it from there.
Are you sure this is not organization specific, where it's just the case that a select few state agencies are not really...
No, you see, earlier on I made a distinction that if you are in the private sector like I am, some of us have received our monies, but my colleagues, a chunk of them that I live with who are in the government sector have not received yet. So it's not about agency specific, it's everyone.
But they are in the majority as well.
Yeah, they are in the majority.
They are in the
Everyone.
majority.
Yes.
Over 60,000.
Yes. So this is what we are talking about. And to come out now to demonstrate, perhaps would be because of the frustration and the high cost of living and all that. But there was this issue I raised earlier on with my colleagues, some of them when I was coming. I remember, Julius, we had that conversation on Twitter some time ago. And I was mentioning that, look, the NSS, I have come to believe, has outlived its relevance. And for that matter, we should either scrap it or make it optional, in the sense that if people who are willing to do the national service, they are stay on campus, can apply, and those who want to do can do. And those who want to do other things can do that. But to make it compulsory for everyone to go through it and not being paid, I think it is...
because are there some plans in place, Julius? I mean, for yourself, those who are NASPA executives, to try and engage management of NSS on this matter in the coming days?
If you heard me, I earlier indicated that I don't have trust in NASPA.
It's not about the trust. I guess you're doing this because you lead the student front and that you have executives to try and work out a feasible solution for your colleagues. Are you going to do that in the coming days?
Well, yes, I will reach out to them. That I will do for purposes of doing due diligence. But I want to put it on record. I'm looking my colleagues who are NASPA executives in the eye, and I'm telling them that I do not trust you people to be serving your constituents well.
Are you not going too hard on NASPA?
No, I'm not going too hard on them. It is something they've been doing over the years. I'm not going too hard on NASPA. They take dues from students, from NSS personnel, and what do they do for them? They tell us NASPA club. They should ask the students how many of them are even interested in getting any of those things. But they charge them every single year and serve them nothing. And I'm looking into your faces and I'm telling you, you are doing gross disservice to the people who put you there, and we are going to go after you. These days, we are going to go after you.
When you say you're going after them, I hope you're not doing that in a violent manner.
No. As I said, we are calling them out. We are letting people know that they are there. Some of the students don't even know there's NASPA. The service personnel don't even know there's NASPA. All they know is that they take dues out of their monies all the time, and they don't get any service for it. And I don't trust them to do anything in these issues. So I am calling on them. They either prove us wrong, or we are going to demonstrate to the student how
let me take your thoughts on this, because deductions are also made from your salary, right? So what's your demand from the NASPA
I've always held a view that I'm a realist. And in this country, I've realized that demonstrations do not work.
You think so?
Demonstrations have never worked. So for us to demonstrate, to go out on the street, it's just piling up the frustration, And you're probably going to get hungry and thirsty, and you will not even get money to buy water and drink, And they will insult you on top of it. So I do not subscribe to us coming out to demonstrate, I believe that they know what we are feeling. They are aware. So for you to come out and demonstrate in frustration is just piling up that, you know.
So demonstrations will not work, but you're expecting that your leadership...
Yes, they should take charge and do something about it. Yes, because where we are now is critical, And this is not the first time we've had such experiences. Last year, for instance, somewhere June, July, we had the same issue that NSS allowances were not paid. And for people who were even complaining with the teacher training, students. And for now, it's been January, February, and March. We are today is what, 18th, right? Yeah. So I think demonstrations will not work, but I believe the leadership are watching and they know. And government should also come out. I want us to be able to talk, to dialogue, as to where we can move this conversation.
Julius, how much more time do you have to be patient? At least hope that something will be done.
Well, at least until by 21st, ordinarily we should know that allowances for the month of March would have ordinarily been paid if things were working properly. So from 21st, which is Monday, we are going to put out a statement, and I'm going to spearhead that.
So you're just giving them 3 days?
Yes. By 21st, we would make our intentions known that this is it. This is the plight we have been dealing with for months. We'll give them that fair warning. That beyond that, service personnel who are willing to demonstrate against the issues, we are going to be at the head of them.
Okay, so what you intend to do is to collate the names, get the names of persons who are suffering as a result of this, and go onto the streets?
And put a coalition. Yes, we are going to do that. By Monday, a statement will be out on this issue.
But you see, you don't need...
If we have angry people, frustrated people, and at least there's no head, NASPA is supposed to be serving as that head,
but
giving some
what
assurance.
Abdul, for instance, is saying, for instance, Abdul is saying, don't go the route of a demonstration. Try as much as possible to dialogue. I
was making a point. Okay, the point is that if there is that vacuum where people feel that they are not represented, you do not know what course of action they will take. And NASPA is supposed to be filling that vacuum, making sure that we are well represented. As of now, we are supposed to at least see a statement from them.
Okay.
You know, admitting that we are dealing with a certain plight, which they understand, which they feel with us. But up to now, we don't see any of that from them. And if that space is not filled, if there's no coalition or anything of a sort, where people could even reference that this is where we should deal with, what do you think the frustrated people will be doing? That is why we are going to fill that vacancy, and we are willing to lead them on demonstrations as well. Demonstrations are completely legal. They are within the laws of Ghana. There are ways of pressing our demands. We are going to do it if we don't get any solution.
Julius Anthony, I'm grateful that you've been able to join us, and just to take the final words of Abdul as well, what will be your appeal to management of NSS as we wrap up on this conversation?
Well, so for the most parts, I think they should come out and talk to us why the allowances have been delayed, and so we can move from there. And also, I believe that we should move away from the conversation about I believe NASPA can do better, and over the years they have been redundant. They have not done anything concrete. Yes, so I believe moving forward, they hear what people say, and people who put themselves out for these positions, I think they can do better, not just occupying positions, but they are there to do a service, and I think they should do that.
Julius, your final words on this.
My final words are simple. We put governments in place to serve our interest. The youth are the largest population in this country. If you look at the number of people who have been posted to do NSS this year alone, it's 80,000 plus people who have been posted to do that. You can't frustrate these people and expect systems to be working. You can't have patriotic citizens if these things are the things we do with them at very tender ages. The average age of people doing national service is 23, 24. You can't be treating them like this. So government should step up, solve this situation. They should even be considering increasing the 559. That's what they should be doing at this time.
All right, gentlemen, I'm grateful. We can now go to Araba Kumsin for editorial.
Where is Vice President Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, chairman of the country's economic management team?
Patients are suffering, students are suffering, traders are suffering, pensioners are suffering, drivers are suffering, contractors are suffering, civil servants are suffering, and farmers are suffering. Fishermen are suffering, and men are suffering. Women are suffering, and children and Ghanaians as a whole are suffering.
That was Dr. Bawumia in 2016 as MPP running mate, singing the tune we all wanted to hear. Ghanaians wanted a good economy. The youth wanted to be employed, a stable currency, great education, good roads, and of course, enough money in our pockets to buy fuel. So Dr. Bawumia got us all excited. And you remember his memorable quote?
You can engage in all the propaganda you want, but if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. You will recall that I stated in 2014 that if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. That was true then, and it is true now.
It is true now. Well, when the NPP won power, he made another firm declaration.
You have seen a stability return to the exchange rate. In fact, for the year, the city has appreciated in value. When we came in, it was run. We have arrested it. and the IGP has the keys. He's locked it up. We've arrested it.
But as you and I can attest, the city has broken jail. Importers are crying. Prices of spare parts are up. And to add insult to injury, fuel prices are up. And of course, that has a cascading effect. Everything else is up. Transport fares, food prices, services, even the price of cocoa has gone up. Nowadays, when I go to my favorite cocoa joint, I have to fork out more cedis to get the same amount of cocoa and kose I used to buy. Let's not even talk about gobe. For those of you who don't know, gobe is a popular dish. It is basically beans and gari with fried plantain on the side and a sprinkle of red oil or zumi. It's perceived to be food mostly patronized by the poor because it's very affordable. Even that is going up. The price, that is. We are in an economic crisis, no doubt about it. Dr. Bawumia promised us a stable currency. He told us the previous administration was incompetent. We believed him because things were not looking up at that time.
People say that John Mahama is a nice man. Oh yes, he may be a nice man, but he's a nice man who you give the economy. Very soon you cannot get teacher training allowance. You cannot get nursing training allowance. You cannot pay your children's school fees. You cannot get a job to do. Agriculture will be declining. Electricity prices will be going up. Is this the sort of nice man we want? He may be a nice man, but he's an incompetent nice man.
So, given our current situation, would you say that this is the competence that we signed up for?
Look at the economic management team. It is quite clearly a fantastic team. Professor Jambafo, Dr. Akotose, Dr. Afriye Akoto, Honorable Alan Chiramanting, Boachi Ejaku, Ken Oforiata, Senior Minister Yao Osafo Mafu. What a solid team.
What a solid team indeed. Well, we appear to be in a dire economic straits and we need the competent Dr. Bawumia to take the reins of the economy as he promised us. We are proud of your digitalization drive, Mr. Vice President. We really are. But we also want you to fulfill all the promises you made. You said mobile money should not be taxed. Or did I hear you wrong?
My view and that we should not tax mobile money because mobile money transactions, a lot of the people who are using these transactions are very poor people.
So why are you so silent in these times that your government is pushing so hard for the passage of the e-levy? Is it the case that you disagree, or is it that they are not listening to you anymore? I mean, I'm only asking questions on the minds of people. We, the people of this republic, need to know. You owe that to all the people who believed and still believe in you, because your silence is extremely deafening.
Now, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital is calling on corporate organizations to assist the facility with the provision of logistics to help improve healthcare delivery. According to the medical director of the hospital, the facility is facing a lot of challenges as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. Malsi Numo has more.
The Greater Accra Regional Hospital is one of the key health facilities in the country that received and treated COVID-19 cases during the pandemic. Even though COVID-19 cases have been on the decline lately, the facility is still faced with some logistical challenges. The medical director of the hospital, Dr. Emmanuel Srofenyo, explained that the facility is struggling to deliver services to patients and is therefore urging corporate institutions to assist the facility. He revealed this when Europe Prima Industries Limited made a donation of over 3,000 cartons of assorted product worth 400,000 Ghana cedis to the facility.
Bouncing back from COVID or suffering from the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, there are so many other challenges that we face in the line of service delivery. Because of the various protocols, one of the areas which has impacted much significantly on the hospital's resources is the area of logistics in form of examination gloves and sterile gloves and many other of these items that we use for day-to-day service delivery. And we are still open. If there is any other company that want to visit us and support the hospital in service delivery, our doors are widely open. As I said, utilities and items, logistic items that are used for service delivery like gloves, examination gloves, and sterile gloves, surgical gloves, and many other things. Even if it's the same items that organizations want to give to us, we are ready to receive them and use them for the benefit of Ghanaians who come for service delivery. You know, sometimes when patients come, some of them may not even have national health insurance card. They come in form of emergencies. We provide the service, and after service is provided, when their bills are prepared, they don't have money. And so sometimes they stay on the ward for a few days. When we see that they don't have any resources, we are forced to discharge them and waive their bills for them. All these go as costs to the hospital. And that is why when companies come to support us in this way, it goes in a long way to relieve us, to help us to provide service, more service, to people who may not have the resources, but who come to our doorsteps. Because when somebody comes to our doorstep with an emergency condition, the law does not allow us to say that you don't have resources, therefore go. We will definitely take a good care of you, do you see? And that will become a cost to the hospital. So definitely, we need occasional supports.
Meanwhile, Head of Administration and Finance for Europe Primary Industries, Frank Prepra, has cautioned the general public to be cautious of fake products on the market.
To a large extent, our brands have been well protected within the market. However, in one or two instances, we've had some issues of fake products also come up. But what we will tell the market is to always look out for the branded, well-branded Santex that you have on the market, the red and then the green and then the white boxes. Also, we also encourage them to actually visit our accredited distributors all around the country to get the original products. And if they should also encounter anything that is they believe is not the real Santex that they are used to over the past 30 years, they can easily call our offices, and then we will be very glad to listen to them and then attend to their needs.
Europe Primary Industries Limited is the manufacturer of Santex antiseptic soap, So Clean, Boom washing powder, Supreme instant noodles, and Top Cafe, among others. Mausi Numon's report for Joy News.
And that's all for you in this package of Joy News Prime. I'm Blessed Sogan. Don't forget to log on to myjoyonline.com. But that's not all. Prime Business is next.
You're welcome to Prime Business. I'm Charles Ayeti. Here's what's coming up this hour. The Association of Ghana Industries is calling on government to, as a matter of urgency, address the city speculation as impact of it crushes purchasing power of local industries.
Speculative nature should be tackled or confronted strategically. We are fairly aware that a number of our colleagues who trade in the open space in the foreign currency. Some are also in link with some banks that wish to cash in on the season of crisis.
Also, as government assures country's food security situation is intact despite soaring commodity prices and challenges with importation of plantain inputs, the Chamber of Agribusiness is calling for sustainable solutions.
Importation of certain goods that I refer to as unnecessary goods. A lot of cities chasing the dollar to import things otherwise we could virtually produce here in Ghana. And also, there are several other things that I think the government should temporarily or permanently ban.
Plus, tallow oil targets strong profits in 2022 after years of losses, a move expected to impact Ghana's revenue margins.
We've outlined an acceleration of our Ghana value maximization plan. So we're looking at a $2.8 billion capital spend between.
And later in our Ghana Man series, we feature how some requirements like buoy and bright prices are gradually becoming outdated. We have all these coming up shortly, but first we're going to be starting off with commodities. Tonight, the Association of Ghana Industries, AGR, is citing the cedi speculation as the main cause of the currency's free fall against major currencies. Even as government holds an emergency cabinet meeting on immediate measures to cushion businesses and the consuming public from the high cost of living, the president of the association, Dr. Humphrey Enimdake, believes tackling the menace of cedi speculation will be an immediate relief to local industries.
As much as we are aware that coming from the COVID era, we are still in a transition mood, in the transition period of recovery. And then these other related externalities, i.e. the COVID impact and that of the Ukrainian and Russian war sparking the fuel price increase. Presumably, we were of the opinion government was then finding a way through its monetary policy tools to spur the economy up through several interventions. But considering what is happening, we pray that the government will speedily come through the finance minister, as you have captured, to bring in some relevant interventions that will bring confidence back into the economy and then project our businesses.
Dr. Enimdake, what immediate interventions do local industries need at this current moment?
Well, the immediate intervention has to do with the cedi. We believe the speculative posture of a number of actors in the economic space is also triggering the rate at which the cedi is falling. And therefore, the speculative nature should be tackled or confronted strategically. We are fairly aware that a number of our colleagues who trade in the open space in the foreign currency, some are also in link with some banks that wish to cash in on the season of crisis. I mean, hey, when there's a season of crisis, some take advantage of the phenomenon to make supernormal profit. So we urge the Bank of Ghana to deploy very intelligent strategies to curb the speculative nature of activities in the economic space, and also through the banks and those who are giving out hard currencies to be traded by, we call these people the Gal people on the street, to cash in on the crisis. The intelligence community needs to step in to tame this activity. The speculative nature is also worsening the case. That will be the immediate intervention to slow down the rate of depreciation.
The Chamber of Agribusiness wants governments to adopt organic means of dealing with food shortages and a hike in fertilizer prices. The CEO of the Agribusiness Chamber, Anthony Morrison, has been responding to assurances by the Deputy Agri Minister of measures being put in place to restore food prices to normal levels.
Food prices continues to go high in view of the rising cost of fuel, and also that also affecting transportation and aggregation. There are some areas that government must look at. For instance, some importation of certain goods that I refer to as unnecessary goods. A lot of cities chasing the dollar to import things otherwise we could virtually produce here in Ghana. And also, there are several other things that I think the government should temporarily or permanently ban in terms of imports. And this is some of the ways we can reduce the pressure on the cedi. Now, going forward, this is now to look at the local content. How do we develop a local content policy? How do we train our farmers to use indigenous materials like the cocoa pods? We are the second largest producer of cocoa. What do we use the cocoa pods for as a country?
All right.
These are the opportunity for us to look into it. Probably we can introduce some enzymes into the cocoa pods and to produce organic fertilizer for the country. So there are several things that we can do. So I believe it's a call in the right direction, but a lot more needs to be done by this government.
Now, oil exploration firm Tullow has indicated that it expects to return to some strong profits for this year. After years of losses, the move is expected to impact positively on the country's earnings from the oil sector. The oil exploration firm ended last year recording another loss of $81 million. However, this represents an improvement over the $1.2 billion loss recorded in 2020. Rahul Dale is the Group Chief Executive of Tullow and has been speaking to George Riafi.
Today, as we look at Tullow, particularly as we look at our business here in Ghana, we've outlined an acceleration of our Ghana value maximization plan. So we're looking at a $2.8 billion capital spend between 22 and 25 in the Jubilee and 10 fields. We're looking at sustaining the gains in terms of operating performance. And we're looking at increasing kind of our drilling capacity. So we're looking at bringing in a second rig here in Ghana. And all that, George, will translate into, we believe, a production level of about 150,000 barrels from Jubilee and 10 by 2025, so compared to sort of 107,000, 108,000 barrels per day. So quite a material increase in production, but directly as a consequence of the work we've done and the investments.
Not boxing you to any strict timeline, but when are you hoping to getting back to some strong winning ways in terms of posting some strong earnings, because you've been able to reduce the loss position and looking at all the things that you're putting in place, are we hoping that by next year we could see these things that you put in place hit the bottom line, or maybe in the next 2 years?
Yeah, I think so. I think that this year certainly, well, 21 was an important year because from a core earnings perspective, we were very much sort of profitable, but we were paying for historic decisions because we had negative earnings, as you said, which were substantially less than what we had in the year before. But still, they were impacted by write-offs of investments that we had made in the past, unprofitable investments we had made in the past. I think a lot of that is done. The balance sheet is clean. So as we look forward, we're really looking at profitability being driven by the performance of the business as opposed to being weighed by historic investments. So I'm quite confident about profitability this year. And certainly kind of as we recover production from both Jubilee and 10, we should see increases in profitability going forward.
What has influenced your decision to take over the Jubilee FPSO? Because I thought that as a strategy, you wanted to focus on your core competence and allow other service providers to help you. Help me out in that decision. When I saw that in your financials, even the half-year, the operational update, and now was firmed up in the full-year results. What is the rationale behind it?
So really, if you think about where Tullow is today, and this is an important thing, so we have a very simple statement that defines a lot of our actions, which is every barrel matters and every dollar counts, right? And what that means when you think about it, George, is that it's about an attention to detail in every aspect of the business that we do, right? So remember that. So if you keep that in mind, and then you look at the operating performance on reliability, safety at the Jubilee, at the K&K FPSO, we've seen quite a substantial shift. So I'll give you one number. So in 2019, the uptime at the K&K FPSO was about 84%. Last year it was 98%, right? So if you ask me why, and in that why is the answer to your question. So the one simple thing between 2019 and 2021 has been a continual increase in the influence that Tullow has had on the operations in K&K. And recognizing the direct impact of that, we believe that in order to sustain those gains, the logical thing for us is to take over the operatorship ourselves. You talked about the core competence. I believe that a company like ours, really, K&K is a really important asset for us. It's an important asset for Ghana. And I think given the significance of that and the point that every barrel matters, every dollar counts, and looking at the improvement in the performance that we've been able to achieve by just increasing our influence, we feel strongly that really this is something that we should be driving ourselves. We'll still continue to work with a lot of the same suppliers, a lot of the local partners that are there. We'll look to increase the capability in the local content. But when we look at this, a lot of the key decisions around planning, maintenance, focusing on asset integrity, those are all we want to drive because of the criticality of the asset.
What will be the impact of this move on employment in terms of either taking up these service providers or bringing in more competent hands to help you with this decision?
So look, I mean, local content is at the heart of what Tullow does. I was in Takoradi on Tuesday and was very pleased because I visited some of the fabrication yards. And it's fascinating because we're assembling complex mega steel structures, which till recently were not possible here. The last time we assembled these structures or fabricated them was in Houston, right? So I think that is the sort of thing we believe is possible. And if we're driving the O&M business, we feel that we can improve and uplift the competence. We can improve and uplift the scale and scope of what we're doing kind of on a local content perspective. So a big driver for us has been to say, if we're much more in control, we'll be able to not just deliver local content from a kind of ticking the box point of view, if I may say so, but really drive local content from real competency and skill building. So kind of like my fabrication example.
So if I get from you, we could be seeing more local hands coming on board with respect to the decision that you've taken to take over the FPSO.
Absolutely. And I think you can see that reflected, George, already even in our organization today here, is we have a lot more of our Ghanaian colleagues in key decision-making roles already in even prior to this kind of O&M transformation. So I think that's very much at the heart of our business. I think that's a critical element of our being successful. I personally have been very impressed with the capability set that we're seeing, whether it's in welding to detailed engineering and planning to, I was at the K&K FPSO late last year and seeing some of the workers there. So I think that's the right destination.
What is the outlook when it comes to local content? I've seen the pictures myself forwarded from one of your workers here, and I was so excited. What is the outlook in terms of local content when it comes to Tullow, in terms of equipping them with skills, bringing them on board to do all these interesting stuff that is going to aid exploration?
So look, I think the key is there's no silver bullet. I think it requires consistent effort. It requires a passion from our side, which is there. And it's a building block by building block. So it's training that welder who can then build skill set to an international standard. And it's encouraging someone like the owners of the flat confidence that they can actually go and put risk capital and create the first Ghanaian flag supply vessel. It's the owners of the fabrication yards to put in the risk capital. So I think it's a systematic kind of effort. I think it's a key to that is really what I call the Kanagana value maximization plan, because what that does is it allows us to give our suppliers the line of sight. So I was with one of our local suppliers earlier today, and he was very appreciative of the fact that he can look forward and say, the Tullow-led JV is going to invest $2.8 billion over the next 4 years. If he's got to go out and do risk capital, he can do that. Right? So I think it's a systematic thing. It's about approaching it consistently, but having programs. So we're trying to make ourselves, not just these are big contracts, but on the smaller ones to make sure that SMEs are able to access our procurement systems simply. Sometimes people find that quite intimidating. Making sure people understand what the opportunities are, so working closely with the Petroleum Commission. So I think this is all part of a very kind of systematic approach. But I'm pretty excited about the potential there.
Help me out on an update on those 6 new wells. I stand to be corrected. I mean, where have we gotten so far, and when are we hoping to finalize that, please?
Sorry, for the
6 new wells that you're working on.
Yeah.
What is the update on that, and when are you hoping to complete that?
So we have 6 wells planned for this year, for Jubilee and 10. We're already done with one of those, and that's the plan for this year. So the investment plan this year is about drilling in both Jubilee and 10. So those plans are already in place, so we're now kind of in the execution mode. So we'll have those drilled by the end of the year. And in addition to that, we have some key infrastructure investments. One in Jubilee, where we're investing in subsea manifolds, and then also in 10, where we'll create some infrastructure to hook up the wells we're drilling this year to drive production growth next year and beyond.
And what would be the impact of these wells on the daily output, production, and total output for Tullow going forward when they come on stream?
So what's interesting, George, is when you look at both Jubilee and 10, right? It's not just the 3 wells this year, but it's the 25 wells that we're drilling in Jubilee, and it's the similar amount in 10. And the impact of all of these, along with the infrastructure spend, which is the $2.8 billion that I talked about, that's what is going to we believe is going to allow us to take Jubilee to over 100,000 barrels a day. And that's what is going to allow us to double production from 10 to over 50,000 barrels a day.
And that was an exclusive interview with the Group CEO of Tullow Oil, with George Riafi there. Away from that, on our Ghana Man series, we feature how some requirements like buoy and bride prices are gradually becoming outdated. Take a look at this report.
I have 2 boys. If they counter any of this, and I went to their wife's parents, and they give me the list, and the list is too much, I have to beg them to come there. If they don't answer to my list, then my children will marry.
Marriage is an institution made special by events surrounding it. Among these events are the payment of bride price and the formalization of the union. The payment can be made in the form of money, presents, or a mixture of both, depending on the ethnic group. In recent times, many have raised concerns about the high cost of bride prices, arguing that some of the items, most often than not, are not utilized by the bride.
Forward. We are not coming back. So I spoke to my dad and told him I'm not going to use those things. So it's not important. Meanwhile, things are difficult now, so you should just understand. And he understood. I think it's waste of money.
It's too much. That's why our children, girls' children, they are still in the house, because what the parents are demanding from their men, they are too much, especially with the Muslims. And if you want to take dowry, sometimes we take dollars, we take pounds, we take sefa. Sometimes we don't take cedis in dowry. So how can the men come and marry our children? Don't be giving birth in the house. So we are begging the parents, they should let the dowry come down.
Well, millennials have reservations about norms of yesteryears, but the aged appreciate culture and will continue to adore it.
So yeah, Baba, where the way. But 2 bedroom member, Condra so beboduku. Tisano, Udisia, Upa, work of Febinua, when every system,
some women echo the respect for tradition and demonstrate how the items are used.
ani banka se na bueni aka phone ni bia no she obla ya bia ngene ko ha me bue ameche bue ye se na mo papa bue se na mo yin fe cho fanji na ka wo ene ko che ha o shishi tight e wa yin ha wo da na nya ka bia na hin ma egbele e wa nya yusu fe pad ye no enepo ehin ha enye soko la wa fe pad ni ko le che soko la wa fe pad wa ko tale neke nene wo ashino e wo shimi nchon ba dole neke ya ashino mi yen ne ko ba dole bona e ko wo ashino mi neke wo ashino wo aka wo ashino mi neke odo fo no yi bona kete se ba kito yi bona odo fo ene ti ene 1 yard ni si half yard agefi o ko kito mi wa na se ba jito yo yi wa na no ko yo se o ba nyoka wa tale fin atale ene achola yin pankasa ka ba fi engagement de pia kwa he papa ene papa ni achola yin pankasa bona won wa ka ko me 15 cedi
mini ji ese na mo
yin ke sho ko wo ameke sho ona ko wo hu esa o he ko wo owo ata owo pioto ani ashino ya pioto mi ke dwele no na shi ke ye pioto mi ana ani ebo bia na pioto bibia ni nya wo ashino dwele no wa na shi ko wo pioto bola ba no wo le ne.
Only a few respect tradition. So how does that affect market women who continue to sell these items?
Yeah, they're 15 cedi. Neke 15 cedi. Obaja mi enyo use 15 fe obaja mi enyo no ba use. Le ekome lebi ke ekome gbeke. Eje system mi ni ho na he papa. Eje ka je ba je system mi ko eje mi eche. Eya ka onupa iba here. Onupa here. Won cheme am for che. I want to make you. Onupa by you. Kaba fi engagement by you. Kaba fi yala when ya can yala. Yo cho acho ha yo kegbo. Acho ha le. Do any system em do bla ya bi pe.
Marriage remains an institution whose dictates are essential. But is it about time changes are made to what is required before marrying the woman of your dreams?
Well, I guess you picked some tips there. That's how we end Prime Business with me, Charles Aite. But we'll leave you with international business news, after which we have sports with Gabriel Smith. To stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us on The Sport. I'm Gary Al Smith, and in our first story, after the fiasco of AFCON 2021, Deputy Majority Leader Alexander Afenyomarkin says a parliamentary committee tasked to probe Ghana's abysmal performance at the tournament has completed its work. However, the report will be released only after Ghana's crucial match with Nigeria. Why did he say this? Let's get the reason.
Mr. Speaker, I am reliably informed that the work given to them is done, except that, Mr. Speaker, there is a Ghana-Nigeria match, a very crucial match, and the committee in its wisdom is of the view that that match should be played in peace and all matters be discussed later. So, Mr. Speaker, the committee has done its work. The committee has complied with the directives of Mr. Speaker, and the committee will present its report.
So this response came as the Deputy Majority Leader was reading the business for next week. So basically, had the Ghana-Nigeria game been another time, we would have got the report from the committee that was tasked to look into the fiasco at AFCON 2022. So let's be standing by and waiting for that report. Let's go to Europe though. Benfica is not a club you'd call those among European football royalty, certainly not in recent years, but they are Portuguese giants. And as they have been drawn in a tough Champions League quarter-final, what are their chances? Joining me from Lisbon to look at the chances of the 1961 and 1962 winners is David Novo of The Athletic. Thanks for your time, David.
No, thanks for having me today.
Great. So before we begin, let's look at the draw which was done earlier today in the Champions League. For those who have not seen the draw, it was done around 11:45 this morning. So let's look at the slides of the Champions League draw, and then we can go to David for the discussion. So holders Chelsea play 13-time champions Real Madrid. Manchester City play Atletico Madrid. Villarreal play Bayern, and of course Benfica play Liverpool. Now, if you look at this draw and you follow football, you will not be surprised at this reaction that I'm going to show you right now. Liverpool game looks the easiest against Benfica, while Man City versus Atletico will be another bumper from two managers that shares different philosophies towards the game. If Villarreal gets a good result at Allianz Arena, they can shock Bayern in the second leg. That is from a Twitter user called Puja Media. Okay, so as we've seen, the holders Chelsea will face the 13-time winners Real Madrid. Man City play Atletico Madrid. Liverpool tackle Benfica, and Bayern Munich take on Villarreal. Now, David, let me come back to you in Lisbon. You've seen the reaction of this Twitter user, which mirrors a lot of people who think that Benfica will be the whipping boys. Is that the feeling in Portugal?
Well, I think that the feeling not only in Portugal but in Europe is that Benfica and also I think Villarreal seem are the teams that seem easier for the other teams like Chelsea or Real Madrid or Bayern. But we cannot forget that Benfica won against Ajax, and everybody, or at least a lot of people, thought that Ajax was going to win easily against Benfica. They were going to win both matches, and the truth is that they won none. They draw the first game and they lost the second one. So I think that Benfica won a little bit more of respect and credit in the Champions League with these two games against Ajax. But we have to see also that Liverpool is a better team than Ajax. It's one of the best teams in Europe, and I believe that it's going to be really difficult for Benfica to make another surprise in the Champions League by eliminating Liverpool. This time, I think that it's. I'm not going to say impossible because I think there is no impossibles in football, but it will be really hard. But we have to see that this is only the fourth time that Benfica is in the quarterfinals. Speaking in this format of the Champions League since '92, so 4 times it's not that much. So this shows how important it is for Benfica to consolidate in Europe, because of course one thing is the Portuguese Championship, another thing is Champions League. Champions League is the best competition for clubs in Europe. So no matter what happens now with Liverpool, I think that this participation of Benfica this season should be complemented. Should be we have to applaud, because especially because in Portugal, Benfica is not doing a great season. They are in the 3rd position. Porto and Sporting are ahead of Benfica. So they changed coach in December. So it's not a season with stability, and to be in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, joining the best teams in Europe, I think that's a great achievement, and I believe that Benfica should get credit for what they are doing in Europe.
David, what will be your professional prediction?
Against Liverpool, I go now. Second match is in Anfield. I think it's one of the stadiums where it's difficult to play with that atmosphere, the anthem, "You'll Never Walk Alone." First game in Lisbon, I think that maybe Benfica if Benfica can manage a draw, for example, in Lisbon, then to have some hopes for the second match. Now that we don't have the away goal rule, that may benefit or not, it depends. But I think that Benfica, I think that Liverpool is going to win the matches. I don't know but I don't. Even for Benfica, I think it's important to fight for the win, the victory in every match, and try not, of course, to get a lot of goals from Liverpool, because we know that Liverpool scores a lot of goals.
Yeah, sure. David, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Gary.
All right, so let's go on still on this tangent of the Champions League. Let's go over to social media and get more reactions that you had to these exciting fixtures. Pretty diverse, yeah? We chose a couple of them. Diane Palesa says, Chelsea, despite being underestimated, went against all odds last season to win the 2021 Champions League. Rival fans never expected it. No doubt playing against Real Madrid in the quarterfinal will be challenging, but the pride of London gets the job done. Good luck to the team. Let's look at another one. Carefree Edition says, I actually think Atletico Madrid could frustrate Man City and maybe even come away with the win, something like 0-0 and then 1-0. I hate to say it and never usually do in case of bad luck, but I'm quietly confident with Real Madrid too, if we Chelsea turn up. Nyan Hunter says, excited to face off against Chelsea FC and hope we shall be able to take the revenge of last season. Kat Poisson 1 says, Man City versus Atletico, beautiful football versus Satan ball. Founder says, I won't be surprised if Man City plays 97% ball possession and still lose by a goal to Atletico Madrid. Nothing is impossible for Simeone. CFC Method says, when Chelsea go down to Spain to play against Madrid again, they best not come back unless they are saving our boy Hazard and bringing him back with them. Well, those were simpler times for Chelsea. They did not have any Abramovich issues. Russia was not invading Ukraine. But as you know, right now, parties are interested in buying Chelsea Football Club. And guess what? At 9 p.m., my watch is telling me that in 12 minutes, the bids will close. So if you want to bid for Chelsea, you have 12 minutes. Let's take a look at the bidders that we know so far want to buy Chelsea Football Club. Take a special look at the last name there. So the Griffin family and the Ricketts family have combined 24.4 billion pounds. They are American. And then there's an American-Swiss consortium of Boehly and Viz, 8.9 billion. There's a Turkish Bayrak, 8.3 billion. The Ressler family, 4.2 billion. The Johnsons, 4.2 billion. The Saudi media group are estimated at, wait for it, 1 trillion pounds. 1 trillion pounds. And they are interested in Chelsea. The Candy is English and it's a consortium led by the Candy family, 1.5 billion pounds. And then Chairman Wuntumi, Bernard Entry Boesiakon, who says he has 7.7 million pounds and wants to buy Chelsea Football Club. As they say Chairman Wuntumi. We'll be back after this commercial break. Let's do some other sport here on Prime Sport Weekend.